So the challenge today is get into a demo account and draw it down 0.5%. So just put some fat stacks on the and then lose on that, right? So get it into 0.5% or close to, and then bring it back by getting into I'm going to say heavy trades, but only on high value trade opportunities, high value trade targets, right? High probability trades. So go heavier. And what I mean by heavier is that if your normal position size is 0.10 or 0.05, you're going to double that position size. So whatever that means, you're going to double that position size. So instead of putting one layer on, you're putting 2 layers on. Okay. Because you're using not only your normal trading, but you're also going to be dipping into your, fix it mode trades. So we're going to look for high probability trade setups, and we're going to fix that 50% or 0.5% loss. And we're going to try and make that into positive, right? So that's the challenge today. And I really think that we practice this and we practice this and we practice this. When you get into a situation, you're going to know how to fix your trades. And that to me is paramount with consistency. Right? If you know how to fix your trades, then you become a consistent trader. So go ahead, Patricio, whenever you are ready to share your screen, go ahead. So the theory here is, or what I'm trying to recreate for you guys is you just close out everything. And now you're down 0.5%. Now you got to fix that 0.5%. But you can only fix it through high probability trade setups. And so if you identify a high probability trade setup, normal rules dictate that you should be going heavier here, whether it's a fix it or an opportunity, right? Or an opportunity, because remember, in the wobble technique, you have 50% that used for normal trading. The other 50 is used for fix it and or opportunities. So the rules still say, if I see a high value trade target here, or high probability trade, I should go a little heavier here, right? But what people do is they go heavier when outside of high probability trade setups, right? And so the thing here is when you're trying to fix your trades, you can go heavier, but you don't want to trade unless it gives you a signal of a high probability trade setup, right? That's when you fix your trades. You fix it just on those high probability trade setups, and you don't trade normal trading support and resistance areas, right? So if you don't have high probability trade setups, you need to get some. Like you need to back test, you need to understand when to recognize them. I can tell you what mine are, I can tell you what a couple are, but really it needs to be you, because you're going to look at the market differently than I do. And so yes, there's only a few, but you need to know which ones that you like. Back test them, figure out which ones come, so that you personally can recognize them, because you view the market differently than I do. So you may not recognize when I recognize it, and vice versa. And so that's why I'm like, you need to have at least 2 to 3 high probability trade setups that you would take every single time you're trading, whether you're in fix it mode or you're in just normal trading, that you would get a little bit more aggressive on. So this is definitely a wobble level 3 technique that we're practicing right here. And you can do this same technique whether or not you're up on your account or you're trying to fix your trades. So I'm just combining it today with fixing your trades, because that seems to be what most people need, is how do I fix my trades? Same thing. If you guys saw my video yesterday, I explained it, how I did it yesterday in my video, where I was just kind of waiting for one move to fix my trades. And, I didn't technically fix all of them. Well, I fixed all of them in one move, but I made more money off another move that I didn't made money off of a money move, but I was only hunting for high probability trade targets. All right, Patricio. So take over and explain what you're looking at, explain what you're doing, and then ask questions if you need help. Okay.
Okay, so I thought I had a high probability trade here because there was not much resistance here. And so I did that, but I went pretty light. So that only helped like $10. I think it's gonna keep going down. So maybe on a new retracement like that, I can set another layer. I doubled the size of the trade from 10 to 20. I think it's gonna come down again, test this low. And if it continues with the daily trend, should be going lower. So that's sort of like what I'm looking at right now. And just sort of like waiting for it to actually do that. There's a bunch of decision points here going up. So I want to wait there. I mean, we've been doing these rounded things all day long. So I would guess that would be a better bet than any other thing right now. So that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. I just want to add one thing that I would look at as well.
Please.
Just so even though you say we've been doing these rounded things all day, we've also been kind of creating these lower lows, right? This is not one, but it's kind of right there. So for it to break out of a lower low situation, it would have to close higher than that, right?
Right. So it will continue to sell into this movement. I mean,
Khalid's already done with the challenge. That was fast.
Really?
I think we need to give you a bigger challenge. Draw your account down 4%. I'm just kidding.
Up there.
0.5% is nothing for Khalid. He's like, I do that daily.
Yeah, that's easy.
Papa Den says he went from 1.5% to plus 6.4. Now he says it's pure luck. But why? What did you do that was pure luck? Why was, I mean, honestly, I don't believe in luck. My definition of luck is just when preparedness meets opportunity, right? So love to see if you guys, so this challenge for sure, once you do accomplish it, I would love to see you kind of take notes how you did it and post it on the challenge section in Discord, so that not only you can look back, but other people can review your notes. And so teach it, like, Debbie says, C1. Oh man. Help me out, Debbie.
Do one, teach one. C1, do one, teach one.
Do one, teach one. Yes. I forgot the do one. I knew the last one was teach one. So in your notes and when you're posting, write it as if you were teaching somebody exactly what you saw, what you were doing, how you did it. Because that to me makes it much more beneficial than just a screenshot. So, and for both parties, obviously, for yourself too, because you're teaching it. You're teaching that principle. Oh, look, Patricio, it's forming your favorite M.
Right. Yeah, I know. But then again,
but look at your account. This is a thing too, is like, you could take that profit, and I would, because it reached, right? Even though you're losing on that layer, that was a great place to take $50 profit.
Right, because it was stalling again.
Right, exactly. And then if it comes back up like that, you could get back into it.
Right.
That was a $50. Did you take any other profit?
No, that's the first one
That's the first profit stack. Okay.
Right.
So we're $50 in.
Right.
Exactly, Jen. That's exactly right. This is practice. So he's like, I'd be nervous doing this in real. Yeah, you don't want to purposely put yourself into a losing situation. But I think this is paramount and key to building that consistency of when you find yourself in a situation for real, which we all have, how do I work out of it? And that seems to be the number one question that I get from you guys all the time. Is it's much more valuable. Even yesterday when I took the loss on the wobble crew, I knew I was going to fix it, but people were commenting to me like, oh, this is more valuable to see how you're fixing this, right? And so from there, it just light bulb moment was like, we need to practice this more and more and more, right? And I don't know if you guys do that, or let me know who actually jumps into a demo account and does this. You know, I think most of our practice in a demo account is not practicing specific techniques. It's more just trading in a demo account, right? And so does anybody open up a demo account and specifically practice one thing, right? Just curious.
No, but it would be a good idea, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you can master one thing at a time by practicing it.
Neville gets 60,000 day bucks. So that's the kind of the principle that I'm bringing over when, you know, I don't know if we still have our basketball refs on or not, but you know, as a basketball coach, you don't just go to practice and say, okay, everybody play.
Right.
But that's what people do as traders is we get a demo account and we just play. Right. But in a practice session, we're practicing fundamentals. We're practicing, you know, shooting the ball. We're practicing rebounding. We're practicing all the different techniques that you need in order to play the game. But I don't see that ever happening in this type of an environment. People just open up and they play. And their practice, they think, is just watching other people doing that and then incorporating it. And it's kind of like when you watch Sean or somebody that's a better trader than you, it's kind of like, well, how did LeBron just do a 360 tomahawk dunk? Well, I'm going to go do that. You know,
right.
And you know, we just simply can't because we don't have the skill set and the technique, right? Exactly, hobble wobble. It was like you practice poorly, but you're like, oh, I want to incorporate that into my trading because he does that. Well, you might not be able to, but I often always say, practice how you play, right? And so, the other quote that I love a lot is that practicing in of itself doesn't make you good. It's when you practice correctly that makes you good, right? And so if you're practicing bad habits, well, you're going to learn bad habits. So that's why I think that breaking it down into these challenges that we're doing on the daily basis, breaking it down into techniques that you could actually incorporate and use is going to help you guys to become a better and more consistent trader. At least that's my belief system. Anyways, I don't want to steal your show, Patricio. Keep talking, please.
Please keep talking. So right now, I would love to reposition these trades down here. If I can, put them in a better position. It looks like it's sort of like consolidating.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, we might be looking more into a wobble type of opportunity. Or it could break down at any moment. So
maybe, but one of the things that you're kind of missing here, but that's okay. I only want you to take, so you're trading like normal. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing is that you're trading like normal. So part of the challenge was to not trade until you see a high probability trade setup and then get in quickly on that. Right?
Okay. Yeah. And I haven't seen that. So yeah, I agree with you.
So by trading normally, but heavy, you're still exposing yourself to a situation where these trades could become a loss situation, and you have to fix those too. Does that make sense?
No, I agree.
And I'm not saying you are, but the point of the challenge was only trade during high probability setups so that you have a higher chance of success. Does that make sense?
No, I agree. So yeah, I agree with you.
So like going heavy at the top of the M here would have been high.
So what I'm going to do,
Sure, exactly.
I'm going to close this up here for a small profit. And then, like you said, wait for a high probability trade.
Well,
and that's easier said than done.
You might have one though.
Right here?
Well, if it does, so, well.
I mean, that's what
I'm trying to keep my mouth shut on purpose so that you can, I'd rather have you figure it out than me tell you, because I think it's more important. Does that make sense?
So yeah,
but if you need help, ask me. Let's just do that. I'm not going to offer it, but I want to help you. So if you need help, ask me, or if you need confirmation, say this is what I'm looking at, and let me know.
So what I'm looking at here are lower highs. Again, 1, 2, 3. Even though I don't have lower lows, I now have a higher low. Again, the candles are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So this would be kind of like a wedge. And that's when my mind goes like, okay, well, it could go anywhere.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you to do that same analysis on a 5-minute chart. And is your analysis still the same?
Okay, let's do this. Okay, let me see if I can get a little bit closer.
Nope. Let's not do that. And that's I'm going to stop you whenever. Let's zoom out. In fact.
Okay. Can you see that? Okay.
Yep. So that's just a learning principle like that. Don't zoom in on a 5-minute chart, because the 5-minute chart is there to see the history, right?
Right. So here, I mean, again, it's been going up quite a bit. It's been going down all day, including the news. And right now it's on this like resistance level, and it's sort of like trying to get through it. So I guess what we could see here is that if it breaks this down here, if it breaks this like maybe down here where there's more resistance, something like that. No, that's not what I wanted. If it breaks like down here, maybe, which is doing right now, then I mean, it could go all the way down to here again. That's 11 pips. So that could be another high probability trade, even though it could also bounce. So
can I
sure, go ahead, please.
So when you took your trades off right here, I said you might have just missed one. I wouldn't have taken your trades off, but I would have identified that as if this breaks here, it's a high probability that it's going to run down and test this.
Right.
And so I would have held those trades on for a break down to test this. If it breaks this and breaks this, then just like you identified, it could run down. So, but it doesn't typically break it on the first attempt. Right.
Okay.
And so it's coming into maybe another high probability trade setup where if it does come up, fails to go above 50% here. If it fails to go above 50%, that would be a high probability trade for another test of that low. But then if it breaks that low, you could be into a ride the wave situation. So in my mind, you missed out on 2 high probability trade targets within this run.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes absolute sense. So,
and I just wanted to point that out so that you can recognize that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's when sometimes like those trades I got rid of, I'm like, oh my God, it might not break and then go up. And then I have all these trades. And that's when sort of like.
So let me throw it to you this way too. So it's been going down all day. We've identified that in order for it to go up, it had to have crossed this line to make a higher high. Does that make sense?
Right.
So we've identified that sells are kind of safer right now
Then buys.
than buys. So let's just assume you had sells on right here. Let's say you kept those sells on and it did go up to here. Well, is fixing these cells easier, or is if we got into buys here and it went down here, which is easier to fix?
No, yeah. I mean, theoretically, of course, the sales, because the trend has been going
Down. Plus, you have a lot more support and resistance lines where it could bounce and come back. If it breaks here, you could run.
Right.
So your risk versus reward is greater. Your risk is greater on buys than they are on sells. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I agree.
Right here at this section.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, I would say the opposite, where I don't know if I'd get into sells right here because you're at the end of a price cycle.
Right.
Let me clear that. So you're at the end of a price cycle. Remember, we said it doesn't usually break on the first attempt. So it comes down, tests, that first attempt doesn't usually break. But if it fails to go on this move past 50%, then it's going to come back down and retest that. But now, because it's gone 50% of that move, look for it to go all the way up. That's when you should get into sells. But you should have held on and not put those sells on until you got confirmation of, are we felling the 50%, or are we gonna go past it? And once it starts going past it, you can put sells on, because you have another resistance point right there, right?
Right.
And so I would much rather have my heavy layer of sells here than here.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes. Yeah. That, on the very beginning, I thought about that bottom layer as a ballet situation.
Sure.
But I agree with you. I mean, I would much rather have myself up there.
Yeah. And so in this challenge, it's really taking the highest probability trades and not getting into early trades. Right. And so for me, this would have been an early trade, that if we're in fix it mode scenario, we don't take those trades in a fix it scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah. Now, first time I'm honestly understanding that. So, yeah. Good. I mean, that's the idea of the exercise, right? Trade not like you would usually. So,
well, it's really to incorporate this technique into your trading. Does that make sense?
Right.
But yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I just understood what you said. Yeah, exactly. Don't trade like you don't normal trade. It's looking for high value trade targets. Now, because it fell there, you should have gotten out and recycled that, right? On for profit. So that's the other thing, is you don't want to hold on to these trades because you think it's going to break. And a lot of times traders do that, where we're like, okay, well, I think it's going to break, so I'm going to hold this. Even if it comes back up into here, I'm still holding it. Oh, crap, it's gone here. No, take the profit here, put your trades back on when it comes up to here.
Yeah. Right.
That's the better play there.
No, and that happens to me all the time. I completely agree with you. I'm like, okay, if it's going to break, I should hold on to those. I mean, yeah, it's like fear of missing out in that sense.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And again, so we've gotten a couple tests. And so here, it's either going to run away. If it breaks this, we're going to see it come all the way up to here, or it's going to come down and test again. If it tests again, you could get that break. But the key thing here was, if you would have X'd out of here on the stall right here, you would not be in these trades.
Right.
And you would be stacking on up here. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what we don't want it to do for these trades to be into a situation right here. Now, this is the other part. If it does cross this and you're in heavy here, this is where you would get out. So if it crosses this with the body, you would get out of these trades as a loss because you're in heavy and you don't, like I say all the time, if it doesn't pan out, get out. And this is where it doesn't pan out. And so we don't want to turn this layer stack against us. Does that make sense?
It wasn't, yeah.
Well,
yeah. It needed to close with the body. I agree.
Okay. That was you just getting a little.
I agree. But anyway,
McGraw.
Yeah, my bias is still sell. So
sure.
So I guess I would be looking for a week or something to play some sells as high up as I can.
Sure, which, honestly is right here. But now we got to say now, because you don't have anything on.
Right.
You don't have anything on. You got to say, is it going to come here and test that? This candle is saying no, right?
Right.
But it's also saying I'm not crossing this. So this is, again, where you should have put sells on. So if you got out of here, I would have just put another layer on there pretty quick. Now, however, the information is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of sitting at 50% of this move, right? If it fails to break any lower, it could come back up and test this. You don't want to take that as a high probability because, again, first test, second test. If it fails to test that and breaks through here on the other side of the 50%, that's where you could get into sells for a test of this low. And I wouldn't go heavy on this just because your risk versus reward situation. So this is really, since you don't have any trades on right now, you're really waiting to see what it's going to do. Remember, this is the second test. So because of that, if this candle closes higher than this right here, I'd start fading this candle. So just put a sell on real quick.
So fade it on the first half of the minute, right, of the candle.
Yes, but more importantly, it broke this and early in that candle, so it generally will come down now, close out of that. Well, I don't know how much margin is there, but you usually will get it to come down and pull down and test, right? And I'd continue to sell all the way up to here because remember, we're still looking for it to cross that.
Right.
But that to me is a high probability trade setup for it to come down and touch this right here.
I'd be loading up right now.
For it to come, well, it just depends. I have no idea what the pip is here, right? If it's only like 1 pip, then it's not worth it. I guess I could look real quick. But no, it's more than
There's
1 pip.
something different going on right now. It's been following that channel until now.
No, well, you just got the bounce right here of support. But again, it has to close higher than this. Now, I don't think we have any news coming in, but again, same thing. It has to close higher than this right here. All right. So Lee was down 153%. Just kidding. Pretty sure you missed 1.53. Now he's at 90. So good. You're trending in the right direction.
Can you hear my dog knocking?
He wants to come in, huh?
Okay.
And Khalid says I tried losing 4%, ended up making 5%.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Tomorrow's challenge: win while losing. Everybody take losing trades.
Right.
See, that's been the problem all along.
Yeah, I mean, we were winning so much at losing that now we're losing at winning. Oh my God.
One thing I really like about loading up at the top is it brings that break-even line up closer, so you don't have to go very far to get to the break-even.
Yes, but I just want to be careful with that thought process because again, most people get into a situation where they don't get out.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, if it goes the other way, you bail fast. Yeah.
Right. And that's the key, billing fast. I would rather take a $20 loss than a $200 loss. Right.
Exactly.
So what's it gonna do next? Is it gonna go down or up?
Yes.
Okay.
New meaning of being.
Absolutely, it will.
Exactly.
Right.
If it crosses this, which is a good thing, but I would look to maybe peel off these layers on the stall, not all of them, but just you're losing the ones that are
At the bottom, the
Yeah.
losing one?
exactly. I'd kind of peel those guys off because those could turn into potential losers if it comes up. And so just break even on those guys. Look for your action point here, right?
Right here,
So,
right?
Yeah.
I cannot see you drawing if you are.
Sorry.
Yeah, but anyway, I can see you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It came down and it touched and it
Looking
stalled.
at the fib right now.
Okay, so I did $20 there on the stall.
All right. So where are we at? We did
So
take some
we're-
losses. We should have marked down your.
Yeah,
We were like 120 down.
yeah, and I started this morning at 23,030 something. So this is my demo account, always does great. So we're like 300 up, then we lost like 120 down. So
Right. So now
think we made like 100.
let me see your account history real quick.
Okay,
Because we did take a few losses, right?
right. So here it is.
Did
So
we take any big losses? Yeah, there's a $10 loss,
there's
$20, $30 loss. Okay. Kind of a $40 loss. So I don't think we're up right now because of that loss that we took. We took 50, lost 40, made 20. So I'll probably say we're about. All right. So new goal. Let's just go back to the trade.
okay.
And from here, let's get it to 2,400. So $70.
So it looks like it could touch up again.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could say could break up, might, or just keep going down here.
Well, one thing that I would be cognizant about
Uh,
is kind of this channel right here.
right.
So
So if I was going to do again, I would wait for it to come up here and then place trades up here again.
right, and you definitely have
Yeah.
it formed like a double right here. So
Right.
it's tested. So if it does come up, test again, it could break.
So
But
there's,
You
yeah,
also want to be cognizant of your price cycles and where you're at in the price cycle.
right. So I mean, the highest probability trade will be sales again, even if it tests this, right? Going light.
That sounds like a question.
Yeah.
You tell
Yeah,
me.
no, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm thinking of right now. So it's always like, should I do it here or wait for it to go
Back there.
further up?
Box is empty.
Let's do a community poll real quick. Who thinks Patricio should buy? Who thinks he should sell right here? What does everybody say?
They sell.
Sell light,
Sell light. Okay.
Sell
Everything
light.
Sell everything.
at the farm.
Sell light.
But
Okay.
all on red.
I will sell everything.
The trend is still down and the news driver is still there. So unless something breaks it, it'll probably. Oh, we'll see.
Okay.
Go light.
But I'm still feeling the down energy on this chart. The dollar energy on it.
I like Norma's answer. Both.
Both. Right.
I like Jan's answer though too. I would kind of look for it to peak its head up for sure.
To pick what?
Its head. So basically, he's saying
yeah.
it could,
Over here.
it could,
Over here. Yeah.
yeah, it could break that and then come back down. So right this second, you don't have any high probability if you don't know whether you should buy or sell, what does that tell you?
That there's no high probability trade that you can do.
Exactly. And so what does that tell you?
That I should be sitting on my hands.
Yep. And nobody said that. Everybody said to sell. It's a phone a friend.
No. Somebody said to do
Somebody
both.
just said that.
Which is
Sit
to
on your
say
hands.
to play the current range. That's probably a good answer right there.
I didn't see that. Who said that?
Okay, so
Someone said buy and sell at the same time.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Meaning,
Norman did say that.
I read that as meaning like play the current range.
Yeah.
10 up, 10 down, buy, sell, buy, sell.
So it was kind of a trick question for you. And so I didn't want to answer it. But the thing is that if you don't know the answer, then you wait for confirmation. Does that make sense?
Right.
I so lightly there. I need to
So, but if you feel confident in a thing, then make that it needs to be a high probability trade setup, because that's the challenge, right?
Right.
It wasn't high.
So there's a difference between what I feel confident in trading and what you should trade. Does that make sense?
Right. No, I understand that. Absolutely. But yeah, it's just that I need to develop more of that awareness for high probability trades, even if it's on my own style or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So
I sell there. Once it got up to the peak, I put on one trade and it hit my target.
right. That's sort of what I would be waiting for as well. I agree with you.
So for me, I probably would have been sitting on my hands until what? Until what?
Confirmation.
Of what? I mean, what? So not, yes.
The direction.
Yes, you're saying the right words, but what I want is specific. So Patricio, tell me when you would get that confirmation on either a buy or a sell. So if it does this is my confirmation. Does that make sense?
So if it comes here, test the top, breaks, and then have a confirmation candle, that will be my confirmation for it going up. And if it breaks, maybe these right here, then I could get a confirmation of it going down. So yeah, I guess this is what I would be like right now. I could do a sell here and just sort of like testing the waters. I don't know if it's going to break or not.
Yeah, the only thing I would have said about that,
Yep.
is that this is attempt number
4, 3.
This is 3, right? So really,
Right.
I mean, I don't know how it could be attempt number 2, really. This is first attempt, second attempt, third attempt of this high. And so putting a sell here, I probably would have just sat on my hands. I probably would have bought.
So how about hedging?
Hedging, to me, when you're hedging, to me, when you use the word hedge, to me, that it says that you're either truly don't knowing where it's going, or you either A, don't know where it's going, or you see an you're trying to stop the bleeding, right? And so either one of those, when you use the word hedging right now, is not part of the challenge. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
I agree.
because we're challenges, look for high probability trade setups and jump in. That's the challenge. Look for a high probability trade setup and jump in. So we don't want to incorporate hedging when we're trying to fix our trades, unless you're stopping the bleeding, right? Or unless you see an opportunity on both sides. That's the only time I would say that I allow it, is if there's a high value probability on both sides. Like right now, I could see that there could be some if it crosses this right here, I could see maybe getting into a buy for a pullback and a retest of that high. But if it crosses this green line right here, then it's going to come down and test the low. right?
So maybe getting to sales, and that could
Well,
be
don't get into anything.
Until I get
Remember, you're
confirmation.
you're at the end of a price cycle. So selling here is the worst time to sell,
right.
right? So where you did sell up here is the better time to sell because it failed to cross. So that's your confirmation that it's going to push lower. So you should have jumped in with more of a sell position, rode this down, got out on that stall, right?
Right.
That's what you missed that again. So I would get out of your sell, and then look to get back in
Over here.
Yeah. So for me, I would have probably gotten into a sell here once it felt the break. I would have gone into a half a position on the sell. I would have probably rode that down because the action point went right past here. I would have got out here. I would have probably got into buys at the end of this price cycle, and just for a 50% pullback. And that's how I would have played that one. But we missed the opportunity, but that's okay. This is what it's for. It's for practice, right? It's not, it's not, you missed the opportunity. That's why I'm kind of been holding back a little bit about what I would do, because I want to make sure that you're making the calls. That makes sense.
Right.
You're seeing it, but you do have a group of traders here that want to tell you how to trade. So everybody tell them what to do now.
Well, that's great. Yeah. So again, for me, I'm going to get into the same situation here because it's going to be like the 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 or even 4th
Right.
attempt.
So for me, I would be buying right now personally for another test of that high. And if it breaks through, then you're into a little bit of a ride the situation on your buys.
So even though it's at the end of a price cycle, because it could break, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because it could break and it should break the more times it tests. And we'll see if this is the break. It just has to stay up. This body of this candle has to stay above that.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking the bus route on this break.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to take that and then go ahead and do it again.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm looking at 50% of this candle.
It came down 50% already.
Of this candle, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if I would have gotten out of that buy. I would have, because the risk versus reward was that this would have happened, and if it crosses this, it could run on us a little bit, right? So
right.
I don't know if I would have gotten out of that buy there when you did, just because you got to look at your risk versus reward on that, right?
Right, and it could go from here, right? So
sure, but it could continue to run, and so you could have held that, right?
Right.
So, but that's okay. Again, this is practice.
Right.
All right. Anybody else complete the challenge? So if you got good, if you guys wouldn't mind, kind of, teaching now and posting what you did in Discord, I'd love that. Like, what was the high probability trade setup that you saw, that you took? What was the, how did you fix your trades?
I did it also.
Now, who's that? Is that Ike?
That's Ike. Yeah.
Okay. I'm starting to get your guys' voices down, but if I don't see you talk, sometimes it's hard. Cliff, you're easy though. Your voice is easy. I know it's Cliff.
Okay.
You got that radio voice.
No,
that movie trailer voice, right? In a world where all trades are positive, it's fantasy land.
Oh gosh. I got a Jamaican voice.
No, okay. Is that where you're from?
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's where I'm from.
How long did you live there before you moved over? So you're in Atlanta now, right? Is that
30,
what-
yeah. 30 years.
30 years? Okay.
Yeah.
So you've only been in Atlanta like a couple of years then?
No, I was in New York most of the time. New York.
Patricio.
Yeah, well, it stalled on my decision point, my action point.
Okay, I'll give you that. But once you kind of get into, yeah, I'll give you that.
I mean,
It's
that's,
gonna retest here and then go back.
Yeah. The pain that I'm seeing with Patricio is that you're really quick to close your trades, which is good, but you're cutting your winners short.
right.
And I don't think I would have bought there. I would have waited for this now buy, because this is, again, practice, but this is the worst possible place to put a buy. Is that right after a stall, because you know it's going to come down a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because why does it stall?
Can't go up.
It's getting tired.
Yeah. So Patricio, on a stall,
Mm-hmm.
it means that it's gone as far as it can, and now pressure for selling is coming in. And so if you buy here, you're going countering what the market is saying it's going to do, because the pressure's coming in, which is pushing it lower, right?
That's
And
why
so
it stalled.
that's why it stalled. And so your next candle or two should follow through with that pressure and come down to here. And then that's when you see it stall here, that's when you should buy for a retest. But now the question is, just like here, how many times did it test to break?
Right.
Normally doesn't break on the first attempt, right? But that's why we have action points, is because sometimes it does, and sometimes you ride that wave, right?
Right.
It turns into a ride the wave situation.
Mm.
So go ahead and I'd say put another buy or two on right here. And now what we're doing is we're looking to see if it wants to cross that. If it doesn't, again, if it stalls here again, well, you know what to do, right?
Yeah, close on the buys and
then do it again, right? But the key here that there's two things to this challenge that we're failing on. One, we didn't really identify the high probability trades, which is great. I mean, I'm not great, but it's fine. But that tells me is that you need to go find some high probability trade setups that you can recognize, that you feel confident in.
right.
That
Would be a great video, identifying high probability trades.
Yeah, for sure. And ones that you can feel confident in, right? So that's number one for you, is finding those high probability trades. Number two for you is when you're fixing your trades, you need to learn to go a little bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Because on your account right here, you can definitely trade with, I would probably say you have 8 lots to trade with. So you have 8 lots to trade with, but you're only putting on maybe one. And so by that, you're not going to fix your trades if you're down. So if you're down let's just say you're down 2 lots, which is in this account, I don't know what that equals. Well, let's say that equals, maybe you're down like 1.5 to 2%. You have to make that back, and you're not going to make that back by trading light. Does that make sense?
Right.
There's a time and a place to trade light, but that's why you only take the high probability trade setups, because those are the time and the place when you go heavier. That makes sense. So
Right,
for
right.
you, Patricio, couple things. One, identify your high probability trade setups. Two, get confident enough to where you could do maybe like a fourth to a half of your position size, of your max position size. That's what you should be trading with. And then
Mhm.
three, cutting your winners, because you've been doing that like a bunch of times here. And I don't know if you do that normally or you're just doing that because you're live in front of people.
So I guess, honestly, I do that normally. I get to a point where I'm like afraid I'm going to lose whatever I'm winning, or I'm going to make a greater loss.
Mhm.
And I sort of like panic or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Because case in point, right here, we were looking for it to test,
Right.
right? And guess what it did?
Came down to-
Yeah, well, it blew past this, but you got out right there.
Right.
So you closed out of your trades right there because it came up and stalled, but it was really early in the candle and it wasn't really a stall. It was just like, hi, goodbye. But because it said hi, you thought it was going to be a stall. So you closed out of your buys right there.
Right. Right.
Right. But it was early in the candle. And so it shot past it. As soon as you closed out, it shot past it.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that helps me and not is I look and see what the candle time is. If I'm early in that candle and it just does this and kind of flickers right there, I'll sit on that and see, okay, what's it going to do? Right. Because again, going back to risk versus reward, the reward is greater if it passes this action point because it could turn into a ride the wave situation. And if it does that, my risk versus reward, my reward is super great because I could have just gobbled up all of this, where your risk is it comes back and you break even. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Even though sometimes I'm right at the break even. So yeah, and I guess I'm a little bit. The thing is, when I've seen candles that move incredibly fast, I'm like, oh my god, it comes down in a second. So,
yeah, sure. But typically we trade for the rules, not the exceptions. Yes, everything you said can and does happen. But if we focus on the rules, we'll be a more consistent trader. Now, remember, the key is not to be a perfect trader. The key is to be a consistent trader. There's no such thing as a perfect trader that are going to win every single time, right? The key is to focus on the rules that allow us to grow our accounts, right? And allow us to consistently win every single day, or, move our accounts up, not daily, but over a week or 2 weeks, we're moving their accounts in the right direction. That's focusing on the rules, right? And then when you have markets that break those rules, you identify what the rules are so that you can quickly identify this market is not holding true to any of these rules. And I probably shouldn't be trading it because these conditions are difficult for me to trade in because it's ignoring all the rules that I have established for myself and trading rules. And if the market's ignoring those rules, then you don't have the skill set to trade in a market that is not conducive to your rule set. You shouldn't be trading that market.
Right.
So that you should come back to a practice situation and practice that skill set so that eventually you can trade in that market and you can say, oh, it's not adhering to these rules, so I need to flip my technique, right? But in the beginning, you don't have that skill set. So you should focus on the rules. When you recognize that the market's not adhering to those rules, then you're done trading that market and come back when the market is changing into your rules. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes, yeah. I mean, we've had so many days that have been weird in the past, maybe 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And where I've been forcing myself to just trade because I need to trade. And and not identifying where I shouldn't be trading, or like you said, sitting on my hand. So
right. And so having those rules in place, very, very important for you at this stage of the game, right?
right, and sometimes with this like market like right now, I cannot believe it. I mean, is this at one price cycle, 30 pips?
I wouldn't say that's a price cycle. But
yeah, because you can always like break it here, maybe 13, then break it here for
I think
6.
somebody called out a good point. Like if you look at the 5 right here, it's at the top of that channel, top of that
Right.
support. You could see a little bit of a run down here on that for sure, right there. But you could also see, if it moves past it, you could also see that we could get into what we've typically done and just continue to run and touch the top of that, right? So, but my point, going back to my point, is that had you have not closed your buys out here, you could have turned this into a ride the wave situation and been able to gobble up all of this right here until and I probably would have put a secured trade on right here, meaning that the moment it crosses that line, you would have got out for profit.
Right. No, I mean, once you get to the position where you can do a secure trade, a trade, because that's, I mean.
Yeah. I've been doing that quite often lately, and because then it helps to stack in more layers when I secure a trade. And I can get deeper on the bigger runs, but that's a totally another technique for different. Maybe if we get a market like that, we can practice that